Welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast. I'm joined today by recruitment legend Mike Ames. How are you?
Absolute pleasure to be here. It's been so long since we spoke, and I was so looking forward to it because you're always good value, Dualta. You've just got such a take on things and get me to say things that I shouldn't say, which, that's a great thing, I think, for your listeners, probably.
All right. Well, nobody can cancel you at this stage, so
I'm
let's
too old to be
let's
cancelled, for
let's
goodness
let's
sake.
figure that out. Um, 2024 shit show.
Yeah, it's been bad. Interestingly, because I'm very old, that's one of the benefits of being old. I've seen a lot. I started in recruitment 36 years ago, long time, and I've seen some ups and downs. And I think the golden period in recruitment, and it could arguably, with AI arriving, it could arguably be the golden period in recruitment ever. It's from 2010 to 2023-ish, I reckon, so that period. What we have now is similar to what we had 2008, 9, and in the early 90s, and in the IT industry around about 1999, 2000, it was pretty bad as well. So I think this is not a great market, but it's still worth 40 billion quid. There's a lot of money in it if you are just a little bit better than the next person. And I really think that's the focus. It's not so much how bad the market is or whatever. It's working hard to get what you want from it and being focused on that and not being worried that it's harder than it used to be. Because it is harder than it used to be. No question.
Especially if you're new and you have no reference point, only the couple of years after COVID where, it was pretty easy. So it's
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was talking to someone the other day actually, and he'd started 2004 or something. And he said the best thing was I just got up and running really, and then 2008 came and crashed everything. And that we had to work in a completely different way to get through that. He said, I'm doing exactly the same now as I did then. He said, I feel sorry for these poor buggers that started in 2012 or something, and all they've really known is the good times, or as you say, in 2021 or something, 2022, just had these marvelous times, like anybody can make money doing this, but now you
yeah.
kind of have to work. And I'll tell you the thing I think, talking to a lot of recruiters, they focus on BD, and I understand that, and they don't focus as much on client care as I feel they should, which is a moot point. Marketing, they're trying their best in marketing. But the most important thing in a flat market is fulfillment or delivery, whatever you would call it. The actual art of taking down a vacancy so you understand it and being able to search out candidates that other people aren't getting, qualifying the bejeebies out of them and then presenting them in a way that's very easy for the clients. The actual thing you get paid for.
Mm.
I think sometimes that gets overlooked, and that's the thing that's got to be exceptional in a business. Whatever else you do, that has to be exceptional because you'll hang on to your existing clients, you get more referrals, and it's much easier to win new clients on the back of success like that. And I think it's forgotten sometimes or overlooked for some people.
Well, I take that a step further and say knowing what jobs to say no to and what clients to say no to, and to sticking to your guns to doing what you do and not thinking that the grass is greener over here is also key. And I have a lot of people I speak to, they're failing in this market because they're trying a little bit of this and that, and then they're getting beat by the expert in that space.
Yeah, that's an interesting question that comes out quite a lot in our group. Um, it is a balance because some markets are just dead,
Mm.
right? And if you don't do something, you're going to die with it. But I think there's a difference between really thinking hard about a lateral market, one very close to the one you're in now, or connected in some way that you can relatively easily move into, rather than just randomly saying, well, I'll just do that then. And as you say, it's blooming hard, especially if there's good people in it. So, well, okay, that didn't work out. Well, I'll just do this then. If you're going to do it, if you're going to move outside of a market, pick one and stick with it. Work hard.
But how did we get from that boom to a bust? How did that happen?
I don't know really. It's an interesting question, I think. But I think there's a combination of things. I do read macroeconomics, so I'm not very clever. Genuinely, I'm not just saying that. I struggle with it. But
Yeah, well, I think you have to be more clever to understand microeconomics than
you're probably right, actually.
macro stuff. Yeah. The
Probably
macro
so.
stuff in headlines,
I think, yeah, I think that,
otherwise known as the news.
yeah, well, I avoid the news at all costs,
Yeah.
really. And since I was thrown off Twitter, My life has improved considerably, I have to say.
Yeah.
Wish I'd gone years ago. But I think the change in government in this country, no one was really sure. They knew it was coming, it was going to look like, unsettle people. The economy is not great. The change of government in the US as well, there was some uncertainty about that. And all that does is stop money being pumped
Mm.
into business and decisions being made. But of course, we've had the election, the budget, I don't want to get political, but the budget wasn't great at all, I don't think, for business. I think it was awful, to be honest. I just think they miscalculated on what
No,
business.
let's get political. It's good.
Well, okay then. I think they've cocked it up because I don't think they've been out of government a very long time. The world has
You're a
changed.
Tory though, aren't you?
Might be. Yeah.
You are.
Actually, actually no.
I can smell it off you.
Actually, yeah, yeah, it comes off. Actually, let me be clear on this. I like to think that I'm not in a tribe. So I nearly voted for Tony Blair. In the end, I abstained
Mm.
in '97 because I thought he was just better and we needed
Yeah.
him. And I wished I had voted for him now, looking back. I wished I'd done that. But it's the principles. I didn't like the Tory government at all. I thought
Mm.
at the end they were bereft of ideas and they were tribal and it's just a bloody mess, really, to be
Yeah.
fair. And I honestly thought I didn't vote for Starmer, but I thought there was a chance he was going to come in and really do these things that he said. But they just aren't very talented, I think, and they
Mm.
don't have any experience of business really, as far as I can see. And they're making decisions. You think, well, why you've done that? That's not going to end well. Somebody must have told you that's not going to end well. So we got that. We got tariff Trump coming in, obviously. And there is this thing, they just recently downgraded growth in Europe, in the EU, and in the UK. France is a mess. Germany's a mess. I just think there's too much uncertainty for people to make firm decisions. So
Mm.
they do what they always do, rabbit in the headlights, as you said, just, oh, do you know what? Let's not do anything. The pitter
Yeah.
paralysis, they call it, don't they? In the pitter paralysis. And so we'll just hang on for a bit longer. So I don't know. Although I did read actually that VC money and private equity money is coming on stream again now.
Yeah.
So people are investing, which is great because even if you don't trade with those companies, they'll hire people from other companies and create vacancies. So there's a good chance that they'll move it, but
I
I'm
think
not sure.
I think I'd even take us a step further back on the problems that we have. So I would look at all the stimulus packages that were offered during COVID in America, and that created the massive inflation that has swept over everything, and everything got out of control because everything's tied to the dollar. So that was one thing. And then the next bit from something that's a bit more micro that has affected us in the recruitment sector, especially because a lot of our earnings are tied to IT recruitment in general. A lot of the recruiters we'd work with, the rec tech that we'd work with, all of that. When Elon went in to Twitter and ripped apart their cost basis and
He did.
proved that you can do a lot more with less, and
Mm.
then at the same time, AI came out and said, actually, the seed money to be able to create a company now is minuscule compared to what it was before. And then that had a knock-on effect of how many people you needed in companies and how
Yeah,
much money was needed for that. Now, that has given us short-term pain while jobs and economics start figuring out what are the people going to do. And
I
the
think there's a lot of
people,
truth in that,
those
Joel.
jobs will exist. They just don't exist right now. We haven't had enough time to understand where all the holes are.
Well,
I
you mention AI, and I think that's an interesting discussion because I don't disagree with what you've just said. I think we had to, well, arguably we did anyway, spend a tremendous amount of money through COVID, try and keep things afloat. And on balance, I think it was the right thing to do. To keep things, and we kind of came out of it with just like massive debt, like in humongous debt that we have to
think,
service. And as you say, inflation went up and the whole thing was a mess, really. But I think AI is an interesting thing because I started my career in IT, weirdly, in
mm,
1978. So, and IT, it's changed significantly over those years. I started with punch cards and paper tape. So it has come on a tremendous amount since those days. But the essence of it is still the same. You build stuff that makes people's lives easier. But every now and again, you get an invention that's disruptive in a big way. Like, so go back to the history of time. Whoever invented fire changed everything. Writing changed everything. The steam engine changed everything, the combustion engine, the computers, all these things, because it wasn't an invention that made one thing better. It was
Mm.
an invention that enabled a whole bunch of other stuff to happen. And at the early stages of AI, like we are now, we don't really know what it's going to impact, but I think it's going to impact everything. I was
Mm.
interviewed on my show recently. I don't know whether you saw it, by an AI. It rang me up on the show live and interviewed me for a job. It offered me the job in the end, actually, but I was surprised because you could tell it was an AI and it wasn't brilliant. But this is a thin end of a very thick wedge, like very.
Yeah. Well, I look at my own business and think of things that like have changed through AI. And like if we think of this podcast, for example, I could put into AI and say, show me the top 20 podcasts on recruitment. Give me a list of their guests. Write me an email to invite these people on. Okay, sequence that with this and this and this. Now, like, make that a LinkedIn message,
Hmm.
and then you just put that into an automation machine and put it out there if that's the way you want to roll.
Oh,
Or you
it's,
could
it's
just be like,
amazing,
or you could
amazing.
just do what I do and say, "Oh, hey, do you want to come on?
But
Do you want
the,
to
the,
come?"
the game changer, though, really, funnily enough, I don't think it's content and writing things. I mean, that's great, but I can write a really good post in less than 20 minutes. It's going to get a lot more attention than an AI generated, because I secretly suspect LinkedIn knows if it's been AI generated. Who knows? But it's like magic, isn't it? But interestingly, I think the big game changer is outreach and filter. So in recruitment, there's a lot of activity. The easy part is when you've got a fantastic candidate. The easy part is writing the CV, sending it to the client, and arranging the interviews. That's not that difficult, really. And it's not that bad searching databases and getting like 1,000 names. It's sifting those names down to a manageable amount, and you can only do that really by outreach and filter, by speaking to people and saying, "Got this role," blah blah blah.
But I'll
Well,
steer you into the writing piece again. So, let's say out of this here conversation that we have, I can get the transcript of that. I can then ask for the create a debate, a juxtaposition article on what we've discussed on the future of AI and all the rest. I could then put that into our community. Then there could be a debate with 100
yeah.
founders back and forth. I could then get that transcript and then ask that to write me an article based on different people's opinions on it. And then like so it's enabled you to capture so if you capture the pillar content that you're creating, you can then use AI to make it happen. But you can't use AI to invent something.
No, you can't. But I think the game changer isn't around content. You're right what you say. The
Mm.
interview before this one the meeting I had was somebody who wouldn't come on the show, right? They're converted from 360 to a layered model, wouldn't come on the show. But I said, well, I'll tell you what, can I just interview you? And I'm going to take the transcript, whack it into
Yeah.
a chat, and just make absolutely 100% right. Yesterday we did a pitch online and Pete recorded it. But as we were doing it, right, Pete said to Zoom, because Zoom's got an AI built into it now, of course, it said to Zoom, "Can you just critique the pitch, would you?" And it did. It sent us instantly a message, said, "Well, I really like the pitch. You did this, that, and the other, but you could have done this and you could have done that." Amazeballs, right? But it ain't that. That's not the disruptor. That's good enough. I mean, that's amazing.
Mm.
But the disruptor is we'll get to a stage where the machine can ring up and do that first level of qualification to take 100 people down to 10 people. Now, when that happens, interestingly enough, I think there's a debate around that because there's 30,000 recruitment companies in the United Kingdom, roughly. There's somewhere like 3 million small businesses. So there's a very, very, very big market in small businesses to go and say, and I know AI, by the way, AI proprietors who are selling their products to end users now,
Mm.
law firms and what have you, is to say, look, the machine will go out and get all of these people. All you need is someone in your organization to take the 10 or 15 CVs that we get. These are people that have been spoken to by the machine. They're up for it. They're
Mm.
available. They're okay with the job or whatever questions they've been asked. And someone needs to ring them up now, say, look, this is it, da 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 da, and interview them. If you take that to its nth degree, there's going to be a lot, I reckon, of freelance TAs just doing a few days here and a few days there. The machine is going to do the bulk of the work. They're going to then parry it down and then set up the interviews if they need to with people inside the organization. That changes everything. Are we there now? No, we're not. We're nowhere near yet. The AI that interviewed me, And if you can't be bothered to watch the episodes, go to the Mike Ames show on recruitment and pan forward to 13 minutes. The interview starts
Yeah.
at 13 minutes in, right? It's massively transitional. It's like when digital was invented, what happened to the print industry? There still is a print industry. We get stuff printed.
There's no chance I'm answering that call from an AI. Like if any type of robot that's calling me to talk to me about something, I'm just hanging up. I'm not
Well,
in.
normally it's set up, so they're expecting it. It's not like a random cold call. I'm not even sure legally you can do that. You can't in the States, can you? I think anyway. But I think I was amazed because the AI, it was very good. It didn't. I mean, I knew it was an AI, but it was okay. Yeah, I'd answer those questions if it means that the AI is going to ring me back later and say we put you forward, but you weren't suitable, and this is why, which a recruiter probably wouldn't do
Yeah.
because you can't do it to 100 people. And if it means I can ring the AI up any time and say, "Where, how are we doing on it? Oh, let me have a look. Yeah. Oh, you've been submitted. Yeah, we're going to tell you. Should get a note back in the next day or two." But this is where it's going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Technology is never where you are. It's certainly not where you've been. Technology is where it's going. And we're 2 years in with this tech, 2022, November. Right. So this is the thin end of a very big wedge. And I think we'll have some golden times in recruitment. I think people will make a lot of money because of AI if they use it properly. We're running an AI conference in February because we believe that it's so important. Got all these AI companies coming in and doing demos and talking about things. Because I think people should certainly be looking at it now and playing with it now. And what it can do, as you say, around content, yeah, just do all of that. Let it write your job adverts. Let it write the front of your CVs if you want. Whatever. Let it write job posts if you can't write them yourself. But really, you need to look at the change that it can make in operations. And none of us really know, Dualta. None of us really know. But I think one of the outcomes is quite serious for us. Another one means we make shed loads of money because the machines are doing a lot of the things that normally recruiters would do. Who knows? But I always say you should hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And I think this is definitely that situation now. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm going to double down on the media stuff
Go for
because
it. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
personality will be the last thing to be replaced, and influence.
Yeah.
That's what I that if you look at the top of the tree where it goes to, like it, how does an AI replace that? It replaces the function of a recruiter, but then the job changes, and what you're doing is you're selling something else.
I think so. I mean, you look at the print industry, which is the best analogy, I think. It's about
Yeah.
40% as big as it was in 1997, right? So
Mm.
it's lost 60% of its. There's still printers out there, right? There'll
Yeah.
always be recruiters. I've no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But I think there are people, that the machines will do an interview for £6.
Yeah.
It'll find somebody and interview them for £6, right? That's what it does. So the disparity between what you pay a recruiter to have a really good service, and let's assume it's a good recruiter doing a great job, versus a machine which is like ridiculously cheap and does an average job, but you can pick up the difference internally. I think
Mm.
people will be tempted to that because they always have
Sure.
been. They always have
Um, how many years then before I have to set up my Irish bar?
been. Someone
What are
asked
we,
me this on an
what are you
interview.
giving me? 10 years? 5 years?
Yeah, someone asked me this. The problem that you have with disruptive technology is it's hard to predict because this isn't just a new piece of software that's coming out. Oh, look, a new piece of software that does stuff that other things don't do. This is an enabler software. So a lot of other software use like
Mm.
chat. Every time chat gets better,
Yeah.
five, everything gets better because they just have to change it obviously to pick up the new features of chat. But nonetheless, everything get better. So you've got this raft of tech out there getting better in lumps and lumps, just as one piece of tech improves. So it's very hard. I would say, if you want to pin me down on this, I would say nothing significant is going to happen for 3 years. And I said
Yeah.
this to an AI guy the other day, and he was outraged. He said, 3 months, don't you mean? No, mate, I don't. I think 3 years. But realistically, I think closer to 10 years. And I'll tell you why. It's not because of the tech, it's because of people's ability to take on the tech. So the internet, say, 1999 was very powerful, but people didn't use it because they hadn't absorbed it, they hadn't kind of taken it on. So it took ages for
Mm.
the usage of the tech to catch up with the tech's capability. And I think AI will be able to do that. It can do all these wonderful things, but people don't use them all. They just use it to do a little bit of this. Oh, it writes me job adverts, or it writes me LinkedIn post every week or something. Yeah, but it can do all of this. I'll give an example of this, right? It's a silly little example. It's not even AI really. Do you use the read aloud function within Word? Right. Okay. So at the top of Word, there's a
Mm.
there's a label which is review, and you can do this in you can do it in PowerPoint. I think you certainly do it in Word. You can do it in Outlook when you're writing emails and things. And you click on it, and then you've got some options, and one of them is read aloud. And you click on it, and the machine reads what's in front of you. Right? It's brilliant because it reads what's there, not what's in your head. Because when you read something, you read what's in your
Yeah,
head. Okay. It's brilliant. It will massively increase the quality of your written work.
yeah.
Because you just think, oh, that didn't make sense, or I used the wrong word there, or I missed a word out, right? Brilliant. Everything I write, I stick through that, right? Everybody's got that tech. It will make everybody's written work better,
Yeah.
significantly better. Put your job descriptions through it, put anything through it. It makes it better. It's 2 seconds, it's one click to work, and people don't use it. That's technology. It's estimated, Dualta, that we use about 20% of the tech that we own in terms of capability. And you think, no, no, that can't be the case. And then you look at things like Excel, how much of that do you use? Or you look at things like PowerPoint, or you look at the number of apps on your phone that you don't actually use. You think, well, actually, could have a
I'd say
quick.
20% is quite high.
You're
Right.
probably right, actually.
No.
You're
So tell
probably.
me this, in your crystal ball, you're retired. I don't know, you're for this third time or whatever, you're going to retire. Um, and Pete has has to still work for the next 30, 50 years of his life. Um, what does his company look like in then?
We talk about this a lot because I am very much of the prepare for the worst, hope for the best, expect the best if you like, but prepare for the worst. So there's two things really. If I was younger, I would definitely set up a virtual TA agency because I think there's going to be a demand for a TA in a company for 2 days a month, right? Have a contract TA, and they're coming on stream now because what you really want is a very good recruiter that can go through a load of CVs that the machine has found, just work out who the best people are to interview, right? And I think there'll be a growth in the mid-tier companies for that kind of service. So I personally would set up a recruitment company to do that. A load of contract TAs swanning around doing great things. But realistically, he won't do that because I don't think that's in his makeup. What we do is teach people how to build and monetize relationships on an industrial scale. That's pretty much what we do, right? And yeah, we do we're a marketing company predominantly, I think, and marketing and sales company. But I understand how to grow businesses, which is the stuff that I do. But only about 90% of our clients are recruiters. The other 10% are consultancies or software products companies or law firms or whatever. So I think the business will span into other areas. And we're already starting to do this. We've started to do a little bit more work with lawyers again. I think we'll just start to push out because everybody wants to build and monetize relationships. And as you quite rightly say, machines ain't doing that for a long time, long time. So, and I think we all like to buy off people that we like and that we trust and that we feel valued by. Machine can't do that in the same way as a person. So we train people to do that. That's what we'll do. We'll train people to build those relationships and monetize them in different ways. But I think genuinely think we've got a good 10 years. Which, honestly, the tech will be able to do it much quicker. I just don't think people will use it. That's all.
Hmm. Let's see. It is. Let me go back to politics, though. It is all the Tories' fault for starting Brexit because Ireland's doing just fine. You know.
Oh, absolutely. I think that Brexit was a mistake. It's done now. What I can't
Mm.
understand is, though, why people aren't talking about, okay, I understand political poison to talk about going back in, and it would be very complicated for us to do that, I think, probably.
Mm.
But I can't understand why people aren't talking more about perhaps rejoining the customs union, perhaps. Things that, okay, there's a compromise to be had here. Particularly now the Europeans are weaker. We stand a better chance of getting quite a good deal on that. But no one's talking about it. And I thought that Starmer, because he's obviously a big Europhile, I thought he'd be all over it like a rash, and he hasn't been. And
Mm.
I just think, it's difficult. But having said that, we're still the fifth biggest economy in the world. So, we're rattling by, I guess, bit by bit, you know.
Yeah. I was uh I was rooting for Trump in this
I
election.
know, were you?
Big time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, when you look at what Biden did and the wars that they went into, like Trump might be a bad guy, but he didn't create any wars and he didn't
No, he
create
didn't.
any
No.
concession.
Did you listen to the Joe Rogan interview of Trump?
I did, yeah, but it was a bit rambly. He was trying to keep him on
Yeah,
track. It was
but
tricky.
I knew why people voted for him, having listened to that.
You did.
Years ago, I used to, when I was decorating, I used to listen to music. I listen to podcasts now. I had to
Yeah.
do the upstairs bedroom for Mrs. Ames, so I just listened to all of that
Yeah.
podcast. Blown away, really. I mean, he was a bit rambly, I'll accept that, but listening to him, it's like, yeah, I almost agree with what you just said there, right? And I don't even like you. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And
He
you know,
had JD Vance on who was very eloquent as well. But he had Elon Musk on who then went on Trump's campaign
mm,
team, and he had RFK on,
mm,
and RFK was the one who really swung the election because what he did was he showed that there's a new medium that people want to listen to people, and that podcasts are much more important than mainstream media.
yeah,
And when he did that, Trump kind of let it happen for a bit and then went, all right, I'm going to jump on that. And then he managed to get RFK to join his team. And then he had the balls to put him in to sort out the health side of America. I think, uh, I think all in all, when that election went down to Trump, I thought we're going to have a good 2025 in terms of business and optimism. And I did a poll in our group. So let's say if you were to define this group, it would be men between 35 and 55, recruitment founders of businesses between 10 and 90, and with an international presence. 95% of them were optimistic of the result of on the result that came through and said that we're going to have a gangbusters year because of it. No, there was a bit of debate back and forth. Like, oh, I don't like him, I feel bad, but I'm going to make some money. And it was just a general sentiment. And I reached out to a few other colleagues, a few shareholders. Yeah, we're back. We're all going to be okay. And there was a general sense
I
of
don't
like,
know. I mean, Trump is a protectionist. He put America first is his slogan for a reason.
sure,
He
yeah,
believes that. And I think, in fact, it was in the Joe Rogan interview. He said, well, he said when Macron tried to tax Google, I think it was, or something, basically they were saying, I think you've got to tax people based on turnover in the country that I can't remember the exact details. Trump rang him up and said, well, if you do that, I'm going to put 100% tariff on champagne and on whatever else the French,
yeah, yeah.
Macron backed down pretty sharpish. And I think the problem that you have is, and I think Joe Rogan might have said this, but someone said it, that it's not that he's actually going to imply these tariffs, but he's going to bully people into doing what he wants them to do, else that tariff goes on. And do you know what? I don't blame him at all. I would do the
That's
same.
that's negotiating rates. It's the same as what we
Yeah,
do on a daily basis. That's
100%. Yeah, 100%.
somebody pushes back. Okay, like it's what's needed.
It is, but the thinking is around it that the the kind of impact that will have on the rest of the world and America to a certain extent, if he actually does put tariffs on things, is not going to be positive. So I wouldn't have, I would have been in the 10%. I don't think next year is going to be a tremendously bad year. I'm
Mm,
optimistic that it'll be, like your 1.5% that they're predicting for this country, or 1% or whatever. I'm optimistic it'll be that, which is pretty much what we had in 2018 and 19. So they weren't bad years. So I'm optimistic it's going to be okay. I can't see the word bumper being associated with 2025 though, Dualta. I don't think that's going to.
it will be in the US,
Oh,
and it
in
will
in
be for
America,
recruitment.
100%. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, 100%. We've got someone coming on the show. It's not until March, unfortunately, but he's set up in America a couple of years back, and he's doing great guns. He's going to come on and tell everybody how to do that because he says it's the easiest thing in the world to do. So I'm going to be interested in how to do that. But of course,
yeah.
you know,
Well,
you,
it's not the easiest thing to do. Like it's so it depends. If you want to have a presence over there and be over there, boots on the ground,
no, he doesn't want that.
complicated. If you want to do it remotely, easy. Like
Yeah,
we do that. Like that's
and he's
you
making
know,
money hand over fist, really doing it. But the point is, I think you're right. We trade in America. We've got lots of clients in America, particularly for some reason on the West Coast, which is very inconvenient for me because I have
yeah,
to, stay up at night.
yeah,
And but there is a a feeling of optimism amongst these people. They think things are going to get better. And I think they may even starting to get better now because people know what's going to happen. Well, Trump's going to get in. Come on, let's spend some money or hire some people or
Sure,
something.
yeah.
So, and I think there is in America 100%. I'd be in bumper 2025 with those guys. Yeah. Outside of America, not so much.
No, but we're so tied to America,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the UK recruitment sector is massively tied to America as well. So, or at least my little sub niche seems to be very reliant on it. And oh, I pray for better times. I tell you, it's been a hard year. It's been,
Of course, yeah, it has. It has been a hard year, but um, right. So go back to the 40 billion. Clearly, a recruiter sitting there listening to this podcast can't possibly get all of that 40 billion. They can't target it all because it's cut into segments and various things. And there's no argument that includes things like RPO deals and MSP deals. I don't really know, but it's a big number. When
mm,
you hack it down to your little bit of the empire that you service, there's plenty there, much, much, much more than you're getting from it. So all it means is that you have to have a very creative way to get a conversation going with a potential client, and too many of them are transactional. Gives a job. I got this great candidate.
mm,
I'm much better than everybody else. I'm different. It's like, really? Is that what you're going to do? I mean, that's kind of okay in the buoyant times when there's more vacancies than there are people, I suppose, but not now. So if you can get a conversation started with a decision maker, then you have to have a very compelling and articulate way of describing your flavour of recruitment. This is my flavour. You like it or you don't like it. If you like it, I'll wait. And we tested this next phrase. I'll wait 3 minutes, 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years. I know and you know that we should be working together at some point, so I'll just wait and build the relationship. So it kind of takes the heat out of the gives a job, mate, gives a job,
yeah,
right? And then you just got to have a mechanism to make sure that you do keep in touch and you do add value and you do build a relationship. If you do that with enough high value prospects, i.e., companies that have repeat business and they haven't got TAs in place and so on and so forth, statistically you are going to be okay, right? It's a numbers game. That's all it is. The
mm,
question is how many is enough, and that's going to vary, of course. But too many people genuinely just gives a vacancy, mate. It's, really, give over. That
yeah.
is not going to work. That has never worked in down times. In 1990, 91, in 2000, 2008, in COVID, the 3 months that we had there, never worked. It's never going to work now. You've got to change the narrative away from, can I do business with you, to, can I add value to you? Would you be interested in this? Because I think you will be. And then you can start a conversation. Then you can move the conversation around to, can I share with you our flavour of recruitment? Because it's very distinctive. You might not like it. Fair enough. If you don't, we'll go our separate ways. But if you do like it, you'll really like it. You're much more likely to get a conversation if you go down that route. Much more
Yeah.
likely. And we have a lot of trouble in our breakthrough group to get people to switch from being transactional. Yeah, I do all of that stuff, and then asking for a job, right? It's like, well, yeah,
Mm,
you kind of can, but you don't need to, because statistically, if you approach from that strategic approach, that relationship-driven approach, you're more likely to get a vacancy now if they have one than if you've rung in and you're the fifth person that's rung them and said, "Here's a job, mate." You're more likely to get it because you are different. The way in which you're approaching is different. Your stance is different. Your result is different. You want a relationship, a proper partnership where you do great work. And of course, it doesn't work for everybody, and some people don't want it, and some people have got a preferred supplier list in, some people's brother-in-law does all the recruitment for them. I don't know, a whole bunch of reasons why it doesn't work, but it works for more people than tactical transactional approaches. 100%.
But are
100%.
we going are we going to become more than just recruitment companies? Are we going to have to have other services that
Yeah,
we're offering?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think especially if you're targeting smaller businesses, because there's more need there. If you're talking larger businesses, they've got HR people,
Mm,
and they get a lot of stuff for free. So, I mean, I think I've always thought that for certain types of businesses, if you want to map the market, so you're ahead of the game. So you kind of know, sit down with someone and say what you're going to be hiring this year, roughly. What do you think? Okay, so I'll map the market then. I'll find some people that aren't looking right now.
yeah.
They're not interested right now, but I'll get them. And then when the job comes up, I've got me pretty kind of medium list already built up, ready for you. And you'll get good people. And they won't be in red water, like dozens of agencies trying to get them all over the place. These people aren't even looking for jobs. The NPC, what we call an exclusive NPC. So it's the most placeable candidate, but nobody else is trying to place them. Again, that's a game changer. And if you are going to spec candidates in, my tip is to spec in exclusive, most placeable candidates, really good people nobody else is talking to, because that's a different game. Get different
Mm.
results from that. But I agree. I think things like market mapping, yeah, I think things like research and development, training. Do you know how few line managers have been trained in recruitment? Don't know how to read a CV, don't know how to conduct an interview, don't know how to get the most out of an agency, no clue. So there's gaps there. I think as well, moving on, some companies would be able to do onboarding as well and manage the onboarding process. Obviously, if the company's got a HR person or a TA, then fine, they'll do it. But if they don't, you can the more you can seep into a business,
Yeah, where
the
you can get sticky, right?
yeah, get sticky into. So we started doing RPO, well, it was MSP actually, in about 1994. And we were one of the first companies in this country to do it in the way that we did. And the reason I did it was to move further into the clients,
Sure, yeah.
to get myself embedded. And we had this single source, multiple supplier model. So we're the source, we've got loads of suppliers. So you get all the benefits of having one supplier, but all the benefits and security of having loads of suppliers. Of course, everyone does it now. It's been around, it's accepted that it was around, but it wasn't at the time. And I did it because I wanted to get myself ingrained in these companies so that they couldn't push me out or another agency wouldn't force me out. And we went from zero to 850 contractors in a year going through that process.
Wow.
Oh yeah, massive, because no one else was doing it. So I think if you look, you're right, looked at ways that you can somehow move closer into the client,
Yeah.
makes you stickier, makes you stand out, and gives you a little bit more security, I think.
Mm. Yeah, I look at our own business, and we started as a rec direct business, still do that. And then we kind of moved into like small business advisory for the founder, and then operational advisory for bigger business, and then building the communities. So then we're tying in everything else. And then we built the L&D platform last year. So we're a year into that. And the way I like to look at it now is I'll invest an hour in getting a founder on a podcast, um, have a good conversation, help them with their profile because they'll be hiring over the next year, add them to the community of like-minded people of their size, and then maybe we can help them with their L&D or their finances or their new system that they're looking to put in or they're hiring or whatever else it is. But it's going to happen in a slow and organic way where we're not going, hey, just give us a job. Tell us about what you need this year and I might be able to plug you in. Have you got an NED? If not, I can recommend a few people here. Have you got a trainer? We have a training platform, but if you don't like that, I can also recommend maybe something that might be more for your leadership or more that's retained or something that might suit where you're going or like how efficient is your tech stack right now? Could it be better? Would you like to see that? And it's just about having those points.
Well, it comes down to kind of, I think, combination of listening and watching, plus thinking. See, we all see the same things, but some of us can deduce. And
Mm.
so, everyone sees what you see, but there's only you doing what you're doing because you've deduced, wait, hey. And then you can try it out. Well, if we did this, would you like that? You would. Well, okay, we'll do that then. And we're the same. We've started producing more executable content for people so that they can take the content that we produce, white label it as their own, and get it out to clients because content, really good quality, and I'm talking about content almost good enough to pay for, they won't
Mm.
do it. It's the thing that starts conversations because nobody's doing it, but they won't do it. So we do it now and they can white label it. They can change it, do what they like with it when they get it. And I think that's come because we've learned that people really don't want to do things themselves. They don't want to learn how to do anything really. I mean, some people do. That's not fair, I suppose. But they actually want the result, and I respect
Yeah.
that. I respect that. So we've just started now. We're just trialing an offshore service. Not that we particularly wanted to get into offshore, but
Mm.
I think people don't want the hassle of doing it themselves, and they've tried it in other companies, and the controls haven't been there because people want to make too much money out of it. But we want to.
I've been down that road.
Yeah, I know, and there are drawbacks. We've used offshore for a long time,
Yeah.
but we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't set up a business. We would use partners, but the way in which they would work, they would use our processes, our procedures, our
No, I
metric.
get it. I get it.
So it's
It's
not so much the people, we wouldn't do that, and
yeah,
that's one step too far for us. But what I think is, it's the same as you. We see the same as everybody else, but we deduce different things. And I think the trick in the market
yeah.
that we're going to get into is what can you deduce, and then how can you meet those needs?
So yeah, that brings us full circle. So if we look at what can you deduce with the oncoming onslaught of AI and the robots, what's going to be left?
Well, I think the lower end, if you're recruiting warehouse people or drivers or temporary admin people or something, you're going to struggle really. To begin with, it'll be easier because the machines will do a lot of the things that that you want. You say you wouldn't take a call, you probably wouldn't take a call. But if you're a driver looking for 2 weeks' work, machine rings you up and says, "Got 2 weeks' work. Let me talk you through. You're up for that." And they sound a bit like that now. It's like, yeah, okay, then well, yeah, I'm up for that. Okay, you got proof you can work in this country, all the stuff the government.
Yeah,
Then yeah, why wouldn't they? Who cares? I just want a job. And so I think that lower level will start to become very automated. And
yeah.
then some of the bigger companies will think, not recruitment companies, I'm talking end companies, well, we'll just do it ourselves. Why wouldn't we? £6 an interview. Yeah, I think we'll do that then. So I think there'll be a lower end will be disrupted, but I think the top end has got lots of life in it. I don't think,
Mm.
you want to get a £600,000 lawyer to talk to a machine. Really? I mean, I don't think so,
No,
somehow.
I don't either. There seems to be a big shift. The other trend I'm seeing is that a lot of people who are branding and labeling themselves as fractional. So
Yeah.
instead of having a full-time job, they're saying they're fractional, which is another word for contractor, right?
Virtual, yeah, it just means, yeah. Outside of 360, normally, if you outside of IR35, if you know what you're doing, yeah, can be. Yeah, but that's what I mean with TAs. I think there'll be fractional TAs, the contract TAs, that just go in and do a few bits. It's already started, actually. It's already in place now. It's not particularly widespread because if you're big enough to do it, you've got a TA. And if you're small enough, then oh, I can't find anybody, I'll just leave it alone. Hence my suggestion to build an agency that did TA contractors. But I just think that if you're in the value economy, the value end of recruitment, you'll be fine for years. If you're at the commodity end, you better watch out, I think, because
Mm.
whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know, who knows. But I think that there'll be people like you as well who can show people how to get the most out of the tech. So you work with recruiters, but you don't have to, do you? You could work with anyone. You want
Mm.
to get the most out of AI? I'll show you how to do that. Yeah, it's like, oh wow, that's interesting. You can do all of that. Yep, yes, you can. And I think it's disruptive and it's hard to predict. Who could have
Yeah.
predicted, with the internal combustion engine, that in a lifetime later we'd be putting people on the moon?
Yeah.
Who would have predicted that? But it was the same engine that was in the, Kitty Hawk or whatever it was, that the Wright brothers flew, and then it was the same engine that ended up in aeroplanes, and then it transposed into something else, and eventually we took the Nazis left over from the Second World War, and they built a rocket. So, but it's hard to see where it's going to go, is what I'm saying. I don't
Yeah.
have particular.
Outside of the next Tory conference, where can people find you, Mike?
You won't find me at the Tory conference, my old friend. No, LinkedIn is my
Yeah.
playground, really. So
And
if you
what's your show?
the Mike Ames recruitment show, we go out every other Tuesday at 12:15. It's live. But if you search on LinkedIn, there is in fact a Mike Ames recruitment show page where you can follow. And we're on YouTube and we're on Spotify and Apple and various other places. Not Twitter, since I've been thrown off, sadly. So if you're on Twitter, too bad. Can't do that. But you can find me there. And we give away, we don't sell to anybody. People buy from us. That's our motto. So we just keep giving content out, doing the things that we should, and people will come to us when they're ready if they want to. Seems reasonable to me.
All right, Mike, let's get you back on in 2025. See if we're all still here.
I shall look forward to that. Thank you very much for inviting me in. Such a brilliant conversation today, as I know it would be, Dualta. Thank you.